Up to 700 migrants are feared dead after the boat capsized in the Mediterranean. The accident happened in Libyan waters, some 200 kilometres off the Italian island of Lampedusa. So far, only 28 people have been rescued. The boat reportedly overturned when migrants rushed to one side to try to attract the attention of a passing vessel. At the beginning of the week, another migrant boat capsized in the Med. 400 people drowned there, children among them too. This latest incident could bring the number of migrant deaths to over 1,500 this year, a tremendous spike compared with 2014. Even today, the French president's called now for an urgent meeting of Europe's foreign and interior ministers over the situation. Well, human rights organisations want the EU to boost Coast Guard services. Amnesty International says rescue efforts are woefully inadequate, calling them a patchwork of resources. Let's get some thoughts from Catherine Shackdown from the Beirut Centre of Middle East Studies. It's so sad every time we talk about this, it's always they're trying to get to Lampedusa, which is, of course, the nearest bit of Europe that you can get to. Italy has been complaining long and hard about this, that they simply can't cope. And, of course, they scale back the rescue operations because it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? People are hoping that they'll be rescued by the rescue services if they do it. Was it the right move to scale back the rescue operations so far this year?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I can understand that migration has become a problem in Europe. But, you know, you're talking people's lives here. I mean, you know, women and children and civilians are dying because they are desperately trying to escape economic hardship and a war zone. And I think that, you know, Europe in that way has to take responsibility because they have, you know, somehow created that chaos. And what they're suffering from now is basically the fallback of that.
Why the spike this year? I mean, last year was horrendous. And there seems to be a kind of, we hear about this a lot. And I don't know, in Europe, there's a kind of a, oh dear, it's very sad, but not a lot happens kind of attitude.
Well, I think there's a lack of empathy there. But I mean, in terms of why, I think that we have to understand that in Libya, I mean, I think that the main problem comes from Libya, where Colonel Gaddafi used to subsidize a lot of the African countries over there. And now that he has gone and that his regime has completely fallen apart, this money is not coming anymore to those countries. And therefore, a lot of the social hardship and economic hardship has gotten worse. And therefore, more people are trying to run away and escape not only just the violence that has been brought by Islamists, but as well economic hardship. So, of course, it's going to get worse in the coming month if, you know, stability is not restored.
Well, we're hearing now the Italian foreign minister has recently called for bombing on ISIL points in Libya in the hope that that will stem it. Would that work or make the situation even worse?
But I don't think so. I mean, if anything, it's just going to create more civilian casualty and more desperation among civilian population. But I mean, we know already, I mean, looking down at Iraq, Syria and other countries in the world, bombing ISIS does not work because you're basically trying to target areas where you think they are, when we know that sometimes it's not always the case and that Western powers have actually bombed area where ISIL was not there. So it's very debatable. And again, it just very much feel like they're trying to legitimate intervention, military intervention, when it's not about bombing more. It's about, you know, going at the root of the ideology of terror.
What should be done about these people now? You say this isn't going to stop for the foreseeable future. I mean, Italy's cash-strapped enough, as we know. A lot of Europe says it's cash-strapped. Who's going to pay for this? Who's going to resettle these people? I mean, where do you start to begin to stem this problem?
But the first thing that we need to try doing is to prevent those people to feel that they have to come to Europe. So we need to engage, you know, regions. I mean, you know, when it comes to Libya, for example, and Africa, well, I would say the international community, but again, it's not about just Western powers trying to impose a certain format. It's about countries feeling that they have a global responsibility, you know, toward this migration, because this is the problem. IDPs are becoming the norm now. It's coming from Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Libya, everywhere. And we can't keep denying that issue and saying that we don't want to deal with it. It is the reality that we all need to deal with as a community, not just Western powers. I'm talking everyone, and we need to find ways in which civilians need to be protected. But we can't think migration in terms of good or bad. It's about taking care of people. We cannot shy away from the fact that this is a human tragedy, and it could come to Europe tomorrow.
The very sad situation, I guess, is that what you're saying, very laudable, but I wonder how many more hundreds upon hundreds of people are going to have to die before anything does happen.
It is very sad. But again, I mean, you know, the other worry that we don't talk about is the fact that you have Islamist militants that are actually using, you know, those migration routes to try to encroach themselves onto Europe. So, you know, this is not just the case of trying to just turn a blind eye and ignore them and try to scale back help towards people. It's really trying to get at the core of this migration. And essentially, those people are running away from Islamists and are running away from violence. So we need to try to work out regional, you know, solution to prevent those Islamists to get control over governments and regions in the world.
It's a huge problem, isn't it? Catherine Schachter, thanks ever so much for your time and thoughts there from the Beirut Centre for Middle East Studies. Thank you.